And good evening. This is the Tech Travel Geeks podcast. This is episode number 15, recorded on the 14th of November 2018. I'm your host, Chief Mobile Opinionist, Matteo, and I'm joined as usual by Lukasz. Good evening, Lukasz.
Hey Matteo, how are you today?
Good, thanks. Dealing with broken boilers and all the administration involved around that, but apart from that, all good. Almost packed for China.
Excellent.
So, we have another awesome guest on the show. This time, it's someone who I have a bit of history with and who was name dropped quite a few times in our recent episode with Mark Dearlove. We have Paul O'Brien himself on the show. Good evening, Paul.
Hi, how's it going?
Very well, thanks. It's great to have you on the show.
When you say we have a bit of history, it sounds a bit dubious, like we've been in fights or something,
No, nothing like that. We're quite civilized. So, Paul, in a way, gave me a break back in 2009, 2010, by allowing me to contribute to the news section of his site, Modaco. Paul, tell us about Modaco. What is Modaco.com?
So it's a forum. So it's got an interesting history. So it was established in 2002 when I bought an orange SPV, Windows mobile powered smartphone. So I was working in .NET development at the time, and I was pretty excited about Orange launching this smartphone. Went and picked it up, thought, brilliant, I'm going to be able to deploy my own source code, my own apps to this phone, plugged it in, deployed the code, and it was like, no, this is locked down. You can only deploy stuff that's signed with the Orange certificate. So I did what any, right-minded technical person would do and started up a forum so I could rant about it and get other people to rant about it with me. And the rest, as they say, is history. We kind of went through the Windows Mobile smartphone years and the Pocket PC years and the Android years and, the dueling with Symbian people and Rafe Blandford, etc., who I'm sure will be a guest on here at some point. And yeah, it kind of grew over and over through the years. It span off a consultancy business that I ran for kind of 10 years working on Android related stuff. So that was quite interesting. Things like working with companies that were bringing tablets into the country from China to then sell in retail in the UK in places like Carphone Warehouse. So I worked on a software build for those. And so I've just kind of had my hands in mobile for a very long time now. Longer when you actually work out, 2002. And obviously I was in mobile before that, but that's when it already kicked off. That's a long time. I must be really old.
And you really know your history of operating systems and open source projects.
Yeah.
Having been involved in many of them.
Yeah, because my background is in development anyway. I've been involved with a lot of stuff, and particularly deeply in Android. There came a point in the evolution of Windows Mobile where it was, do you stick with Windows or is this kind of Android thing going to be like a big thing? And it turned out to be quite substantial. I was playing with my T-Mobile G1 the other day on the 10-year anniversary of Android and thinking, wow, what a machine that was. It's pretty fascinating.
And we all cry about what Migo could have been.
Yeah, indeed. It's interesting. In amongst all that stuff, I was kind of a Windows Mobile MVP. So that means kind of Microsoft plucked some Windows Mobile community people and, brought them under their wing. And we went out to see Microsoft in Seattle and kind of got involved in a lot of events they were running. So that was pretty cool. And, that's me helping you, Matteo, with a segue into travel. So.
Yes. So obviously you travel not only for your day job, but also with the community and blogging related side of things with what you do in the mobile space. You mentioned that you were a guest of Microsoft in Seattle. Did you go out to Seattle to visit HTC when a lot of the Western facing activities were there?
Yeah, the HTC was an interesting one. So they had like I guess what you call it today is an influencer program. So that kind of originated at Microsoft with Jason Gordon, who I'm sure many people know is now at Gogoro. That kind of left Microsoft and moved into HTC, and that involved kind of getting people together at locations kind of around the world talking about HTC products and kind of Microsoft products and that kind of thing. So yeah, it was pretty cool. It was an interesting program, not because it wasn't, let's get people out here and let's, wine and dine them and give them stuff and get them to say nice things. It was very much like let's get kind of knowledgeable mobile and tech people out here and actually show them what's coming along and get feedback on our products. And the people, when we were there, it wouldn't be pulling any punches. If there was a device and it was crap, it would be called out as crap. There's been a bit of kind of back and forth on Twitter of late around Huawei giving out devices at their launches. I'm sure you saw it, Matteo, but around how that positively or negatively influences their reviews. But I think you'll agree with me that if you're kind of professional at doing this kind of thing, it's just an opportunity for you to give real feedback on what you don't like as much as what you do like.
Yes, and we also, obviously, depending on how closely related you are to these companies, you also get the chance to, as you did with HTC, to get to see the products long before they come to market, to give them feedback, to ask questions of where you think there may be some areas they can improve on, or you think they've thrown it out of the ballpark. There's a lot of that going on, but it all obviously depends on it. Both yourself and others that we are friends with and we speak to, mainly on Twitter, the thing is we're very, very passionate about it. We're the ultimate product feedback people for the people developing those products.
It's funny being involved at that kind of level of detail, in that when a device comes out and it's great, it'll be like the best thing in the world, but then when a lemon arrives, it's the most depressing thing imaginable, isn't it? I'm trying to think of a device that counts in the lemon category, the HTC Cha-Cha or something.
You mean the HTC Cha-Cha, which was rebranded as the HTC Cha-Cha-Cha for Spain?
It wasn't Cha-Cha for shit or something in Spanish, wasn't it?
Cha-Cha was Spanish for Lady of the Night.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay.
And
right.
So HTC had to very rapidly rebrand the product, which ironically they launched at MWC as the Cha-Cha-Cha.
yeah. Either way, not a brilliant device.
No, though I did actually see one in the wild in Singapore in January this year, and I was really impressed by someone, still using a physical QWERTY device. Not only that, a physical QWERTY device running Android in landscape mode, and it was still working. Which was one of the issues with that hardware, was that it wasn't very reliable.
Was that Android or was that Windows Mobile?
That was Android. The Cha-Cha and what I think the non-Cha-Cha one, which was a touchscreen Android device with a Facebook button at the bottom of it.
Yeah. What a lot of people don't remember is that the original, before the G1 came out, there was like a reference device for Android, and it looked a lot like the Cha-Cha, didn't it? With no slider, but just a old school BlackBerry style.
It did, and there's no concept of touchscreen for that sort of device.
And on the subject of the Facebook phone, did you guys hear recently that Facebook are releasing a new device? The screen, what was it?
Portal.
The Portal. The Portal.
Yeah.
Looks quite interesting, but quite expensive, isn't it?
I would also... Oh, sorry, you go, Paul.
I was going to say, the biggest issue is whether you want Facebook in your house or not, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
The terms and conditions are subject to change, or frequent and breaking change. But hey-ho, I visited the Facebook campus recently. I did not see any of them in the wild, but it was an interesting experience. I now understand more about how people work at Facebook, and it's very interesting to watch as a visitor. But yes, Facebook then followed up with another device, which ironically was made by HTC and launched in the US on AT&T, if I'm not mistaken, Paul. And that was an incredible flop, to the point that it was pulled not long after release.
Yeah, it was an AT&T exclusive. I can't remember the name of it now, but it was about as successful as the Amazon phone, basically.
Yes, and the Microsoft kin, or is that the benchmark for failed launches?
I remember the kin when it came out, and Microsoft was so excited about it, and yeah, it just didn't work, did it?
No, that was one of the I think Vodafone pre-release devices that never actually got released.
Mm.
Sad things, but I think we're all the better of it, as in market forces did give us some better platforms to work with.
I'm trying to think what that compares to now. These devices that launch with fanfare and flop. Is it too cruel to say the Essential phone is, the modern equivalent?
I think that the Essential phone was a bit more of a, let's put it this way, a concerted venture capital effort at creating a new thing on the market. I mean, they had Andy Rubin stroking, and sorry, they had Walt Mossberg on stage stroking Andy Rubin's phone. So that's not something that happens as by coincidence or pure corporate push. There's a lot more dark investor capacities at work there.
Yeah.
But yes, Essential was a very interesting blip in the market. It could have been very, very good, but I think that they released to market too early. What do you think, Paul?
I think it's interesting because I've had a couple of them actually, and it's a decent phone with a pretty disappointing camera, and I can't decide if a disappointing camera killed it as a product overall, or whether even with a excellent camera it would still have not done very well. I'm not really sure, because the feel in hand was amazing. It had a very innovative notch. The ceramic back was great. The size was great. Everything about it was fine. The updates were quick, and it's pure Android. But for some reason, people just didn't buy it. And yeah, the camera is the only thing I can think of that was kind of the real killer. But
yeah, also launching it in the US is always a problem, where carrier power is much bigger than the phones themselves. I think that hampered them is partnering with Sprint initially. I think that with the Essential phone, to really give it that aspirational positioning in the market, they could have launched it somewhere like the Middle East, had a sort of boutique Vertu experience, and it would have sold very well just because of its premium build and innovative design.
You say that like Virtue is a success,
Well, it did very well for a few years. I'd say from late 2012 through to 2015. They had significant revenue and had started looking as if they were going to go profitable, but sadly that didn't happen in the end.
Because it was really Nokia, wasn't it? And then it was spun out separately, but I'm not sure where it's ended up now.
So what my understanding of what happened was that it was a Nokia asset, like many others, that was spun out. Their Italian CEO, Max Pogliani, reorganized the company, partnered with TCL, my understanding is, for components and software support. And then they became an Android vendor, and that's when they started having some serious traction and started having boutique franchises across the Middle East and in London and Milan and other places. Sadly, that didn't work out in the long run because the investors got spooked. So I think that the UK production facility, which was one of their selling points, is handcrafted in the UK, has been shut down. The brand and the franchisees left are all owned by a Turkish company. But Vertu was the ultra luxury phone, which is not the sort of phone most people and most travelers would choose, because it was so expensive. It had a ruby button on the side, which wasn't your on-off button. It was a concierge button.
That's right.
You'd call your concierge, who was provided by Vertu, and they would book you your next private jet.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. And who can understand why it didn't really pan out, eh?
Yes. We were coming out of the recession and the financial crisis, but not fast enough for Vertu.
You've got to wonder if there's now a market for them, since people were paying like £1,000 for devices anyway.
Exactly. They're only 10 times the price.
Ah, bargain.
Though looking at the lower end of the market, So we're paying £1,000 per device for our Pixel 3 XLs and our Mate 20 Pros. Have you had to play around with the Honor 8X?
Yes. Brilliant device. There's a couple of problems for me with the Honor 8X. One is obviously micro USB is a bit annoying because I've kind of tried to get rid of everything micro USB in my life. But for majority of people, that's not really a problem. Probably the biggest issue with the Honor 8X is the fact that the Honor Play exists. I think the prices are just too close at the moment, and especially with the Honor Play being pretty discounted at the moment. I can't really recommend the 8X over the Honor Play for most people because of the flagship CPU that's in the Play.
Yeah. Do you think that there's a very different market? Do you think that the fact that the 8X is available in stores, it's available at the Carphone warehouse at 3 stores, that makes a big difference in this context?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the 8X will do extremely well, and I know someone with one. I've got one myself, and yeah, it is an excellent phone. Yeah, I mean, Honor and Huawei are just killing it, really, aren't they, with their devices? There's the odd kind of weird one where you think, why would anyone buy that? Like the Mate 20 Lite, when you look at what it costs versus the Honor equivalents. But yeah, that end of the market is definitely getting very interesting as the mid-range prices are squeezed down, and Xiaomi obviously coming into market now as well. It's pretty crazy. And with the big argument against Honor and Huawei was always Emotion UI or EMUI, and I think that's lots of people still moan about it, but the reality is that it's a non-issue nowadays. Be interested to see the next person that moans at me about Emotion UI, I'm going to make them use MIUI for
MIUI being Xiaomi's Android distribution.
Yeah, so then they'll realize how good they've got it. So
yes, and let's not mourn the death of TouchWiz, because now the official naming of Samsung's new UX experience is One Wiz, spelt one as in ONE, Wiz UIZ.
Oh
or
dear.
UIZ.
Hasn't been TouchWiz for a while. It's called something else currently, isn't it?
But in the hearts of those of us who were part of Modaco back in the day, it will always be TouchWiz.
I had someone talking to me the other day about the Omnia. Do you remember the Samsung Omnia?
Those are the Windows Mobile 6.5 devices.
Yeah. So that was, full candy bar, pretty equivalent to what we're using nowadays. But I can't remember what size the screen was, but it's something crazy like 4-inch or something. We're like, wow, this thing's huge. No one's ever going to use a phone this big. How things change.
If I'm not mistaken, I wrote a review of a ZTE Skate, which is an orange Monte Carlo.
Yeah,
a 4.3-inch device defined as a big-ass phone.
That was the follow-up to the San Francisco, wasn't it?
Yes.
Which was the classic. And I remember going to, at Centrepoint in London, going to the launch of the Toshiba TG01. Do you remember that? It's a really thin 4.3-inch Toshiba Windows Phone device. And that
was the one with the original Snapdragon chipset running at 1 gigahertz.
Yeah, that's right. But again, we like, oh man, this phone's just too big. But yeah, I don't know. Have our pockets got bigger, or I don't know.
Well, I would say phones are one of those things that define my shopping habits now in terms of clothes. When I try clothes on, I check, does my biggest phone fit in them?
Do you only own like cargo pants now? Is that what it is?
Cargo pants or relatively comfortable jeans. And you can tell the days that I was trying on jeans wearing a Xiaomi Mi Max. Because if I put on my skinny jeans with a Xiaomi Mi Max, I risk breaking some ribs.
One of my worst ever stories is about when I'd just been to the Dell Streak launch, and I had a bright red Dell Streak, and then I went to a different phone launch. I think it was an Orange event in a bar, and got my Dell Streak out, and a young lady came up to me and said, "Excuse me, are you compensating for something?" So, rough.
That's rough. And to give our listeners a bit of context, the Dell Streak was a 5-inch Android device launched, I believe, with Android 2.1 and one of the first Gorilla Glass screens. It was an amazing phablet tablet device. At the time, no one really knew if it was a tablet or a phone. Most people assumed it was a tablet.
pretty serious bezels as well. 5-inch doesn't tell the whole story. It was a bit of a beast. Yeah,
It was. But those were the days with removable batteries, and you were lucky to get a day's battery use out of a device.
a bit like owning a Pixel, basically. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, that's
Speaking of,
my soapbox at the moment. Yeah.
yes, how are you finding the Google Pixel 3 XL?
So I'm quite enjoying the 3XL actually, more than I thought I would. I mean, it has the Uber notch, obviously, which is a beast, but you kind of, as with all notches, you kind of forget about it, after you've used it for a couple of hours. Yeah, I've got mine here as well.
Yeah.
What color's your one? Is that a black one?
Yes, this is a black one.
Yeah,
It has the Uber bathtub notch, as it's known.
Yeah, there's an interesting app. Have you seen Nacho Notch? Are you familiar with that?
No, I haven't seen it, but I have
There you go.
read about it on Twitter.
So this is like standard notch mode, and then we have Nacho Notch, which you turn on with a kind of toggle, and then it basically, there you go. So the notch has disappeared now, and it turns it black at the top and curves to the top, but it keeps the notification icons at the top.
Oh, cool. So they've essentially put MUI features onto a Google Pixel experience device.
Yeah, if you look at Instagram there, you see I've got my notifications at the top, but it's kind of hidden a notch away. And it works really well, to be fair. I quite like it because it's OLED screen. Obviously, it's truly black off. Yeah, the 3XL is nice. It's not amazing. It does have RAM issues on this software build. The camera is good, but I've honestly not been that blown away by it. And the whole experience is ruined because I've got a Mate 20 Pro.
I completely agree. That's the thing is,
it feels like last year's phone. I'm going to be honest. So my wife, I brought her the not pink Pixel 3, and she switched to it from a P20, and she doesn't like the Pixel at all. Said the battery life's no good. The camera, she misses pro features from the P20. Yeah, so much so that she's now got my Mate 20 Pro, and the Pixel's moving on. So yeah, pretty crazy.
well, Vanessa is a very lucky person. She has the luxury of an excellent phone supplier. I came back from London from the launch of the Mate 20 Pro, the Huawei Mate 20 Pro. Lukash liked it so much he went out and pre-ordered one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got it straight away, and I've been so happy. I used to use Samsung phones for the S7, S8, and S9. Currently, I'm on two phones, but the Mate 20 Pro is fantastic. Have either of you received the update for the night vision yet? It was supposed to come out today.
I haven't received it yet, but I've installed like the third-party APK that enables it, and it's pretty cool if you want to take photos in basically pitch darkness. But again, I'm not entirely sure how often I'll really use that. The thing about, so I got the Mate 20 Pro at the launch, obviously, and I've been using the P20 Pro solidly since its launch, since it came out. And the Mate 20 Pro kind of fixed everything I wanted on the P20 Pro, which was great. But there's just, in the real world, the Pixel does some really cool stuff, with night shot and that kind of thing. But the versatility of the Mate 20 Pro camera completely blows it away. The zoom, all the kind of cool stuff it's got. Yeah, it's nigh on. I mean, yeah, people are moaning about EMUI, and if it was pure stock, that probably would be nice. But it's not far off the perfect phone, is it?
It is.
I fully agree.
It's an amazing device, and sadly, one of the selling points of the Pixels until recently was you get the latest version of Android first. The Huawei Mate 20 Pro came to market and was available for people to pick up, at least in the UK, before the Pixel 3 launched, and it had the same version of Android on it in terms of security patches and version number.
There is an issue with the Mate 20 Pro in some units with a greenness on the screen. I don't know how yours is, whether you've got the green issue. What colour is yours? Is it a twilight or a black?
Mine's twilight.
So it seems the black ones are more susceptible to it. They seem to have a different screen in some of the black ones than the twilight ones. But
that's interesting. Yes, I will probably be chastised for doing this, but I've covered my Mate 20 Pro with a case.
It's not even Mockadile. What's going on?
It's not even Mockadile. This is beautiful faux denim with a very nice platitude on the back. A bold attempt is half success.
I don't know if it's the camera though. It looks pretty greasy. Looks like you've been out working on the car or something.
Yes, that's the faux denim effect of the case.
Is it
It's one of those beautiful things that you can get on AliExpress.
Have you named it Phenim yet?
Yes, it is also known as Phenim.
AliExpress is very dangerous, isn't it?
It is, especially after a few beers.
Yeah, I ordered some of those new, I can't remember what they're called, the new Xiaomi earbud things.
Is that the $30 Bluetooth 5 ones?
Yeah, I can't remember what they're called now, but yeah, they were 28 quid including delivery.
Wow.
Which is pretty cool. So I ordered some of those. I don't really know why, because I've also ordered some fly pods, which is the Honor equivalent. And I've also got the free buds currently, which are like the Huawei ones. And the craziest thing of all, I don't really listen to that much music. So yeah, it's an illness. What can I say?
Yes. So these are all Bluetooth wireless headphones. Do you use them when commuting, when not working from home?
Yeah, I suppose I do. But my commute is kind of 17 minutes on a train each way, each day. So yeah, I kind of use it a bit, catch up with a podcast. I'm walking to the train and on the train a bit, but not an awful lot. But yeah, it's I'm interested to see how the fly pods. There's two things I'm interested in. Those how they compare to like the AirPods, because my daughter's got the Apple ones. But also the reason I ordered them was because they can wireless charge off the back of a Mate 20 Pro, which is kind of cool. So
that's really cool. So they have Qi charging in the FlyPods case.
It's an interesting. That's probably on the Mate 20 Pro. That's the feature that's been most of interest to people when I showed it to them. They can basically charge up people's dead iPhones.
It's a great backstop. Lucas, have you used that to charge your Samsung S9 Plus?
I think I tried. It's quite slow. From what I've seen, it's rather slow, but it's a really useful feature. And that was actually the reason why I got this phone, because my Samsung kept on dying, and the battery is amazing. So I've not used it on purpose to charge other people's phones or my Samsung S9 too much, because having two phones both survive the day without any problems. But yeah, it's quite good.
Very good. So that is an issue to maybe try and segue into travel a bit more, is dealing with battery anxiety, especially as our smartphones become more and more important to us for translation, maps, directions, boarding passes, train tickets, and so forth. Paul, have you ever had some serious cases of battery anxiety?
Not really, but for several reasons. So first of all, I've always got at least 2 or 3 phones on me, so that helps a lot. And also I have this illness which results in just buying every battery bank that I seem to see. So just in case I need another battery bank. So I've got like a drawer full of battery banks. But generally, one of the first things I put in my bag when I'm heading out on any sort of long distance travel is I've got an OmniCharge 20. So I don't know if you're familiar with OmniCharge, but it's a pretty kind of seriously industrial battery bank with an OLED screen and various different charging levels and all sorts of stuff. So I've got a USB-C version of that now, so that kind of covers off pretty much everything I need to charge.
And so, what's the brand again?
OmniCharge.
OmniCharge. Yeah. And is that one of the stainless steel looking like ones?
No, it's kind of black textured plastic thing. They're ridiculously expensive, but I got it on Kickstarter when they were kickstarting it. But yeah, it's just like incredibly flexible, and you can see a lot about. You can see on the OLED display what rate of charge is going into the device and all that sort of stuff. So it's a bit of a nerd's dream, really. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
So yes, you're pretty much like me. Loads of power banks, loads of devices. Battery anxiety is not really a big issue for us.
Yeah, I have a weird thing though, where when I was using the P20 Pro, so I'm obviously a heavy phone user, so that would mostly get me through the day on one charge. But even though I'll be sitting at my desk all day with a charger right there, I'd just leave my phone in my pocket or sitting on a desk. Then when it got to like 9 o'clock at night and I was on 10%, I'd be like, oh, why didn't I plug it in? But every day exactly the same. Thankfully, kind of the Mate has got rid of that anxiety. But
key question: do you have the Facebook app installed on your device, and is it running in the background?
I do have it installed on my device. Is it running in the background? I don't know. Probably.
Probably yes. It's one of the pain points many have pointed out is the battery life. It's particularly on Android, and if you uninstall the Facebook app and just use Chrome or Firefox or Edge, whichever your preferred web browser is for Facebook, it's almost as good as an experience, but with a lot less of the battery drain.
Yeah, so I published an app on the Play Store actually called Simply for Facebook, and it uses like an embedded Chrome browser within an app to give you kind of the Facebook web experience, but with the benefits of it being in a separate app. So I used that for quite a while, but yeah, I somehow ended up back on the Facebook app. But I don't use Facebook very much anyway, really. It's just a way of keeping in touch with family periodically. So
yes, sadly, as with all social networks, we go where the people are.
yeah,
Yes,
and not Google Plus. Yeah.
Sadly, we had this conversation with Mark Dearlove. I remember the days when we used to all be quite active on Google Plus. It's sad to see that that opportunity lost by humanity.
Yeah. I think Twitter is ripe for disruption. It's just not clear where that's going to come from right now. So
yes,
sadly, I suppose.
Sadly, the leadership is not something we have faith in.
Maybe it's the edit button that's missing, and when it comes, they will change the world.
Zali, if you head over to my blog, www.paulobrien.net, there's a post on there about how the edit button should work. So, yeah, have a read of that.
Very good. Product management tips from Paul O'Brien to Jack Dorsey. Jack, he also does consultancies. Get in touch. paulobrien.net.
Yeah. So something I wanted to ask you, Matteo, is what's your getting back to travel? So one of the key things about traveling with lots of devices or lots of kit is choosing the right bag or choosing the right thing to put it in. So my kind of daily driver bag is, I'm sure you've seen it, even if you don't have one, is the OnePlus backpack.
Yes.
So it's a bit of a staple of kind of tech geeks and might not be an obvious product to those outside tech circles, but it's probably one of the best kind of purchases I've ever made. It's a brilliant bag.
Yeah, the OnePlus bag is great. For me, it's not really enough, especially when traveling sort of shorter haul. So, for example, when I go to London, I usually have everything I need for 3-4 days in one bag, both in terms of tech and luggage. So the OnePlus bag is a bit restrictive and small. I'm using a Sparin bag, which is one that I purchased on Amazon. It's about £28. It's made for tech in that it has USB port on the side. It's a waterproof backpack, which has space for putting your power bank on the inside, and then you have a downward-facing USB port on the side of the backpack so that you can plug in a USB cable and charge your device on the go. And that's the big selling point for me. Plus, it's exactly the size of hand luggage for EasyJet and Ryanair. Not that I will fly Ryanair anytime soon, but it just is within the limits, and I've never had any issues with cabin crew asking me to check it in.
And what's that called? How do you spell that?
Sparin, Sparin. And the model is the 17-inch laptop model.
Yeah, I'm going to Google it right now and leave it open in the window so I can have a look later.
And it has all the right pouches to be able to access different bits at different times.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, reasonably priced at Amazon, $29.99 as well.
Yeah, it's a good device. If you keep an eye on the daily deals on Amazon, you can see that sometimes goes on offer. It can go down to £24-25.
Nice.
So that's what I use. Lukash, you have quite a good hand luggage backpack.
Yeah, my favorite one is one called Douchebags. It's a brand by one of the YouTubers I follow, Jon Olsson. He's a Swedish photographer slash snowboarder slash Instagram YouTube celebrity. And
I'm a bit worried about Googling this, you know.
Yeah, it has a nice DB in the logo, so it doesn't scream douchebag when you walk around. But it's really good. I traveled. I was on a 6 weeks around the world trip, and I used it it was my only baggage. It fits into. I can carry it on, and it's just the exact size as well. But it's quite robust and really good, and it's in camo, so it's really good as well.
I'm just looking at their website now, and there's a 90-litre one called the Big Bastard, and a 60-litre one called the Little Bastard.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, interesting.
Yes, very, very interesting naming convention.
Yeah.
I'd like the Big Bastard, please, douchebag. Yeah.
I'm trying to decide. I go to China on Friday, and I'm trying to decide what to use in terms of hand luggage. Do I take a little trolley and a small backpack, or do I take a big backpack? So it's decision time in that space.
Yeah, mine typically depends where I'm going. So I've got the OnePlus bag if I'm going on like a business trip, and kind of an additional case as well. But if I'm kind of going snowboarding, then I've got my snowboarding backpack, which can fit a lot of stuff in it as well. So they're my kind of two go-to bags.
Yeah, I'm torn if I do choose the trolley case and a small backpack to go with between our company issued Samsonite small backpack. I think, Lucas, you have one of those too, and the Honor backpack. You mentioned OnePlus, Paul. Did you get one of the Honor backpacks?
No, I haven't seen one of those. I didn't know that was a thing, to be honest. So
yeah, so it's been since the beginning of this year at influencer, blogger, journalist events. The goodie bags have been, rather than being bags themselves, they've been actual backpacks, which are very nice. I'd say arguably as nice as the OnePlus backpack.
Oh, nice.
Very, very nice. Grey bag with little silver Honor logo on the back. Very tasteful.
Is that something they sell as well, or is that kind of exclusive to the events, do you know?
I think that in Europe they're exclusive to the events, but I wouldn't be surprised that in the Honor department stores in Shenzhen that they will have a luggage section with that particular backpack model in it.
So when you're traveling and you've got your backpack, do you always take a laptop wherever you go nowadays?
If I'm traveling for work, yes. My work machine is a trusty Dell. When not traveling for work, I've actually just switched. I was over in the US in September. I made the purchase of a Microsoft Surface Go, and that's what I use when traveling. Wow, is that an old school phone? It's a landline.
A landline, yeah.
Wow. This week in phone history, Paul O'Brien from Modaco.com speaks about Windows Mobile 6.5 and shows us a landline phone.
And embarrasses everyone by having it ring on the podcast. Yeah.
No, that's great. It adds to the retro feel of the episode.
Oh, there you go. They're funny.
Again. Good.
Yeah. Silence that.
Can you change ringtones on that one?
Probably. I don't know. The only reason I have actually a landline phone, we say, it's an old school landline phone, but it's actually hooked into my VoIP lines. So yeah, you can dial the VoIP number and get through on my business number to a kind of old school phone, I suppose. So
great. So did you build that service yourself, or are you using a third party?
I use the third party called Sipgate, and then there's like I can't remember. It's been sitting behind the cupboard so long now. I can't even remember who makes it, but there's like a Siemens thing that provides a decked service for a VoIP line. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It kind of mashes landline and VoIP together. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
Awesome. And who's your internet service provider?
I'm with BT. So yeah, it's fine. Speeds are pretty decent here. We don't live in an interesting area to get like hyper optic or any of that cool stuff. So yeah, it's just fine.
You live near one of our company founders and former colleagues, nearby him. And yes, it's a lovely part of the world to live in. Much better weather than Edinburgh. Much better links to the rest of the world, but sadly, not as much connectivity.
Yeah, Norfolk, which is where I am, is statistically the driest part of the country. Apparently, is the quote that I give everyone. So, and definitely compared to Edinburgh. Yeah.
Yes. Very good. Okay, so we've talked about your trips to Seattle. Apart from your trips down to London for events and for work, are there any other trips you go on regularly or as a one-off?
Mostly around the country, to be fair, to our other offices. Other than that, it's kind of holidays with the family. So we'll typically, be skiing or snowboarding in at Christmas and in February, and then kind of summer holiday in France or somewhere like that. So obviously that involves packing all the right kit, as you can imagine. I think the key thing for me when I'm packing, whatever I'm doing, is that kind of photography gear kind of goes in first. It used to be a DSLR, but don't never use that when phones got better. So now I take a Lumix TZ100 for kind of a proper camera, and then obviously I've got a couple of phones as well. And I just recently got a GoPro Hero 7 Black, so that's pretty cool because that's got the new hyper smooth stuff. So the image stabilization built into the camera.
Have you tried it skiing or snowboarding?
Not yet. I'll be doing that at Christmas, but we went to Cornwall last month, and we did a lot of walking, and I kind of tried it out there, and it does look pretty amazing.
Yeah, I just booked a skiing holiday, and I'm really struggling not to buy the GoPro Hero 7. I have a 5, but the jump in stabilization is just amazing. So
yeah, it's interesting for me because I've got, as well as the Hero 7 Black, I've got a Rilo. So I don't know if you're familiar with that. So that's a 360 camera, but it uses the 360 not to make 360 videos, but you basically record this video, and then in the editing software, it does like this crazy stabilization where, I walk along and I've got it on a selfie stick and I'm waving it around, and then when I play the video back later, it's completely smooth. So I can imagine when you're skiing, that's going to be amazing. And you can pick, so as it's doing the video, you could be going down the piste, and then you could get the video to look behind you and then track someone going past and all that sort of stuff afterwards. So that's pretty amazing. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how the quality compares with the Hero 7 Black.
Yeah, that's quite exciting. I think I've seen this one. I'm also wondering if I'm gonna try using a drone while skiing. That will be my extreme idea. I've got the Mavic Air, so depending on how busy the slopes will be, I might try this. This could be some good shots.
Yeah, so I've got a Spark. So yeah, and I've got a on loan Mavic from a friend of mine as well, a Mavic Pro. Yeah, I just love droning. I think it's brilliant, but it's getting harder it's becoming less socially acceptable to fly drones nowadays, and a lot of places are kind of banning it effectively. But no, I love it. It's excellent fun, and some of the modes that are built into the DJI drones are great. I'm not sure I have the confidence to basically send it up and then ski down a mountain and just hope that it's going to follow me. I can see, like, I'll get to the bottom of the piece and it will have landed or something.
Yeah,
you got to be pretty brave. Pretty brave.
Yeah, my most extreme attempt so far was driving a hired Mustang in Hawaii. And getting the drone to follow me, but I was on the parking lot, luckily, so nothing happened. But some cool shots you can get with this one.
Yeah, I think drone technology is really interesting. DJI are kind of running away with it. There's no one really compares. The Parrot drones, are probably the nearest, but even they're not great. But there's a couple of new companies coming out, like Skydio. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They're kind of fully AI powered drone. Looks pretty cool. So yeah, it's a natural. I think there are a couple of things that are natural progressions for phone nerds, and it's drones and like cars and electric cars seem to be what phone nerds then get into if they want to waste even more money.
That's my gadget list. Yeah, a phone, a drone, and a Tesla.
Right. How about combi gas boilers?
I think are they sort of gadgets if you can plug them into a Hive or a Nest or something like that? But
eventually, yes, but they're really expensive if you need to get them fixed, as I've been trying to do today.
Yeah. Are you in a cold house at the moment then?
Sorry?
You're in a cold house at the moment?
No. So luckily this is my other flats. So Candice and I managed to keep our first flat when we moved into our new one, and it's now an Airbnb. So we we rent out the place to people who find us on Airbnb, and that's a little combi boiler that we had originally put into the flat back in the day, and that's now being going to have an engineer around to fix it tomorrow. But it was a very interesting shopping process for the whole, what brands would you like? What components? Who would you like to supply the components?
You
So
realise this is the polar opposite of travel. This is like staying at home and fixing your boiler.
it is, yes. But I really need to get it done just before I travel because I need to go to China on Friday. So hopefully I get it sorted tomorrow, and that's the end of the headache. But yes, that's the as you correctly mentioned there. That was the planned segue. Is you can plug in a Nest. Lucas, you've done that, and then when you are away traveling, you can remote control or do a quick checkup on your on the situation.
Yeah, I've got a Nest, both the boiler control and the camera. So I use one app for that, and while on holidays, I frequently check if the flood is still there and if the temperature isn't going into negatives. So yeah, it's quite good.
How about you, Paul?
I've got Hive, but yes, and Unify for video network, but I don't know, it's not that exciting, is it? You know, it's novelty wears off pretty quick, doesn't it?
I'm afraid Hive are having a bit of a challenge at the moment, aren't they?
I don't know.
As in their product team is in a bit of a shuffle. And I have a friend who used to work on their Android app here from Edinburgh, and my understanding is that there's a bit of flux there, and how the product's going to evolve is still to be decided.
Oh, interesting.
So we'll see, because that's a very interesting type of product which is useful to travelers, which we might decide to cover a bit more in depth on Tech Travel Geeks at some point.
You got me thinking about something else then when you mentioned again segueing, and I thought it got me thinking about scooters. And
Yes.
what with Xiaomi officially launching in the UK and their Mi 365 scooter being officially available in the UK, is this a tech area that has ever appealed to your good self?
I have been seriously tempted. So last time I was in Shenzhen on business, it's where everything happens. Lead times for components and software are very, very short. The iterations that are happening in the market there are very, very rapid. I was tempted to come home with one, but looking into it, it turns out that it's not actually legal to ride an electric power scooter anywhere in the UK.
It doesn't really seem to stop people, though. I mean, let's be honest.
No, but if anything were to happen because you're not allowed to be doing it, you would be automatically deemed to be in the wrong.
Yeah, I've been thinking about the same, but for a boosted board. So it's something I'm a huge fan of Casey Neistat on YouTube, and I've been dreaming of getting a boosted board, even though I never skate. But it's illegal in the UK, as Matteo is saying. You can't ride it on either on sidewalks or on the road. So you're a bit lost unless you do it in your garden.
Yeah, technically, you're only allowed to do it in private land. If you're lucky enough to live in Norfolk, you probably have quite a big garden.
Yeah, I think that it doesn't become that useful. I think the appeal in a scooter is, it folds up pretty light, take it on the train, jump off at the other end, scoot up the hill, and I see people doing that, but yeah, it is, technically you shouldn't be doing it.
So hopefully after Brexit, we will have time to ponder these bigger issues.
Well, we'll all need scooters because we won't be able to afford cars and petrol anymore.
Well, as some people do say, having a car is a lifestyle choice. Sometimes forced, sometimes not. Who knows? But yes, that's another interesting thing. So you mentioned Paul, your holidays tend to be in the UK and France. And how do you get there? What mode of transportation do you usually take?
It varies. We quite often drive. So when we go skiing at Christmas, we'll be driving, and we drove to Bordeaux in the summer. So yeah, we tend to drive, but we do fly as well sometimes. So yeah, we quite like kind of making the journey part of the holiday and stopping en route and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's It's good fun. It's going to be interesting. We're aiming for our next car to be an EV, so that'll make driving to just outside Geneva definitely an experience and a planning exercise. But
Yes.
yeah, we try and drive where we can.
I think Miriam Joire had a very interesting definition of a new type of refugee, are those waiting for their electric cars to be charged whilst they have something to eat in a relatively unhealthy diner or fast food restaurant.
Yeah. I think even on rapid chargers, you're still going to be there for 45 minutes to an hour charging up your car. So yeah, and you can burn through that 200-300 miles pretty quickly, and then be back eating another burger.
Yes. And so what do you drive at the moment, Paul?
I've got a Golf GT at the moment, so plug-in hybrid. So currently, I kind of get the benefit of driving electric locally, and most of our journeys are kind of local journeys and within the range. So the longest journey we do on a regular basis is kind of driving from home to Norwich, which is just over 20 miles. So we can leave home, drive electric all the way there, plug in on a polar charger in Norwich, and then drive home on electric as well. But of course, if we do a longer journey, then we have the benefit of a petrol engine as well. So kind of best of both worlds a little bit at the moment, but I think we probably could cope with full electric now.
Very good. Do you think the plug-in electric hybrid is the ideal stepping stone towards full electric?
Yeah, I think it is really. I mean, for us, it's been a great learning experience about, where you can charge and, the experience of owning an electric car and all the good stuff about it. But, without, fully committing to, doing away with, dead dinosaurs completely,
Yes. Change the dead dinosaurs for really old minerals in the batteries.
yeah. But I think plug-in hybrids are good. I think the reality is that a lot of people won't be able to have kind of electric cars in their lives because they don't have suitable parking for charging and that kind of thing. Plug-in hybrids offer, a bit of an answer to that until charging infrastructure on street and things is a lot better.
Yes, that's the biggest challenge, is to have that infrastructure, which is at least the equivalent of the petrol filling station networks that we have in most countries around the world at the moment.
Yeah. See, my joke was that I bought the Golf GTE because it's just a big battery bank, and I can't stop buying battery banks. Yeah, you're right about the infrastructure and kind of petrol stations. And in fact, recently BP brought ChargeMaster, didn't they? So they're going to be putting ChargeMaster rapid chargers in, BP petrol stations. So yeah, they're kind of two worlds coming together.
Yeah, I remember being very impressed by BP having a petrol filling station in Luxembourg. So depending on which route you take from Milan to whichever port you're getting the ferry back to the UK in, they had this petrol filling station that was in the middle of nowhere, and they were claiming to be a producer of electricity because they had loads of solar panels and windmills on the site. And they were offering free electric charging, but also they were pumping power back into the grid.
Nice. It's yeah, I mean, it's like the most boring, nerdy thing to think about, really, but it's sort of travel, so I think I can get away with it. It's a kind of when you need to plug in your car for 45 minutes to get a decent charge, and you're not going to charge much quicker than that anytime soon. It completely changes what the concept of a petrol station is, doesn't it? You already see. BP are putting cafes and M&S and all that kind of stuff into their filling complexes. So I think, you'll continue to see that expand as people need to leave their car on site for 45 minutes to an hour and kind of kill time.
Yeah. Cinemas, maybe? That would be interesting. Or a Netflix cinema, so you can watch an episode of House of Cards, maybe.
I'm going to be very, very optimistic and hope we get to the point with not only electric vehicles, but also fully autonomous vehicles, where they're open Wetherspoons pubs in the petrol filling stations or charging stations, so I can have a few beers because it's not my problem. The car will be driving for me.
So of all the pub chains you could have in a petrol station, you went Wetherspoons. I'm a bit worried about that.
Yes, I'm a great fan of Wetherspoons, and more specifically of their beautiful HTML5 app, which which is beautifully clunky but functional.
See, there's me thinking it'd be lovely to have like a nice gin bar and maybe some fine wines.
No, I need to have a Weatherspoons with that serves halloumi fries.
Wow.
And hooch, obviously.
Obviously, yeah.
For our listeners abroad who don't know what hooch is, it's an alcoholic lemon brew, which used to be quite a hit in the 90s with teenagers and seems to have maintained that market demographic as they aged, which means it's now at people in their 30s and 40s are still drinking hooch at Weatherspoons.
I don't think this is the kind of thing that you shouldn't be admitting on air, I think.
Oh, it's fine, Paul. I don't have any street cred. You know, you've known this for years.
So, do you have a hooch with a Smirnoff Ice chaser?
No, I'm more middle class than that.
All right. Okay. Good. Yeah. No. Okay.
No. I stick to the hooch on ice.
Yeah.
And it is a very refreshing drink. Whereas my understanding is that on the west coast of Scotland, the preferred beverage is Buckfast on ice.
I know what that is.
So it's actually an English but an English monastery called Buckfast, and they make this tonic wine, which is red wine with locally sourced grapes mixed in with caffeine and herbs, and it's quite frankly disgusting, but very popular in certain parts of Scotland because the price to alcohol volume is very, very low.
Ah, I see.
The ratio is very low, and so it's known to be the cause of quite a few incidents at weekends.
I was at a stag do the other month, and this Buckfast was the main drink of choice for the gents there. And yeah, some interesting stories I could tell you probably offline. One of them involving a virtual reality helmet and playing Gran Turismo, and after a few Buckfasts, didn't end too well.
Yes, I believe that was just before one of the episodes of the Tech Travel Geeks podcast that you were delayed in reaching us on.
Yeah, that was it. Luckily not for me because of the Buckfast. But yeah,
Interesting. So yes, for those of you listening, we've just gone down memory lane in alcohol consumption and practices. Paul, what's your tipple of choice when not at a Weatherspoons?
Interestingly, so I keep bringing these back to gadget-related stuff. So that tells you everything you need to know about me, really. I recently-ish got one of those. I don't know if you've seen something called the Sub. So it's like if you imagine like as a Nespresso is to coffee, then this is the equivalent for beer. So you kind of you get these things called torps, which are like 2 liter, like a 2 liter bottle of beer. You kind of put them in the machine, it chills it down, pressurizes it, and then you can kind of pull it with a proper tap. And I can't remember. It's one of the big brands makes the actual machine, and then like the Heineken group make the actual torps, so you can get all sorts of different beers in there and stuff. So yeah, I'm quite fond of that at home. And then we kind of got a Naked Wine subscription as well for a nice glass of wine. But yeah, the Sub, which we got, it was on a half price deal, is a super cool thing for proper beer at home.
Awesome, and really good news that they have Heineken beer making the is it torps?
Torps, yeah. I think they're a bit torpedo shape, I suppose, is probably why they're called torps. But yeah, it chills it down to 2 degrees or something, so it's a proper nice cold beer. And there's IPAs and like a Cobra beer and all sorts of different stuff. So
that's really good news if it's Heineken, because they now also own Lagunitas, my favorite Californian brewery, and they handle distribution as well, which means that if that's the case, I might have a good reason to get one soon.
Yeah, if you go to the-sub.co.uk, you can kind of have a look and see, what kind of stuff they have. So
the-sub.co.uk.
Yeah.
Matteo, I think our colleague who I went to the stag do has one, so you can probably talk to him when he's back. in a couple of weeks. So
Awesome. So shout out to Martin in that case.
Did you see
Yeah.
Lagunitas?
Yes.
So they actually have a Lagunitas Torp, but it's out of stock at the moment. But yeah, you can normally get that as one of the Torps.
Awesome. That's great because that's what our go-to place. I don't know if you know the Twit TV bunch on the internet, Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah. So their studio is just around the corner from the Lagunitas Brewery in Petaluma.
That's all right now.
So, and it just happens to be in the same block as a Motel 6. So, cheaper accommodation, brewery with awesome food, and the Twit studio.
Nice. Do you get out there much on Twit or?
Yes, I do 2-3 times a year to the studio, depending on vacations and plans. So I was there recently in September. It's a great place, great bunch of people, and they're in a way setting a standard for how to do podcasting at scale.
Nice.
With a physical presence in one place.
I want to ask one last question about technology for travel, keeping it on topic a little bit. Noise cancelling headphones. So I'm pretty intrigued by the new Sonys that are getting like rave reviews.
So the third generation ones.
Yeah. Do you use noise cancelling headphones, either of you yourselves, or?
So I use the version 2, the second generation. The difference is the USB-C in the new one versus micro USB in the old one. I'm not sure how different the sound is in the new one, but I've been very happy with them. I'm wearing them just now, and they changed my life, my commutes. Basically, it's a completely different world. I just shut off. I just put on some music or YouTube, and I commute quite like 40 minutes per one way. So I really like them. I thought you've got the Bose, right?
Yes. So my main travel ones are Bose QC35-2. That's the ones with the Google Assistant built in, and I'm very, very happy with those. I have to say, I've been using noise cancelling headphones since 2006, and I've been through quite a few brands, but Bose have really blown me away by how good they are. They're also a step up in terms of price because they're £300 in that ballpark of price range. But I also use wired ones, so the ones I'm wearing at the moment.
Yeah.
These are Sony active noise cancellation ones, with the added advantage of 3.5 millimeter connectivity, which I sometimes prefer to not have to worry about charging my headphones as well.
What is this 3.5 millimeter you speak of? I'm not familiar with it.
You may have found that port on a Pocophone F1, Paul.
Yes, yeah, we haven't even talked about that, have we yet?
Yes, so the Pocophone F1 has a 3.5 millimeter audio jack, and sometimes for not having to worry about charging my noise cancelling headphones, that's what I use. I'm actually planning on taking the Pocophone to China on Friday and using that for media playback of audiobooks and podcasts.
It's a decent device, isn't it? In a lot of ways, actually. Yeah, the build's a bit plasticky and there's a bit of light bleed around the screen, but other than that, it's pretty unbeatable. Well, it is unbeatable for the money, isn't it?
It is. I think that in terms of value for money, you're getting a lot, but also if you think back to even just when I was writing for Moda Paul, the quality of what people are complaining about now is nothing compared to the light bleed issues we were having on Orange Monte Carlos in 2009, 2010. There is no such thing as a bad phone anymore, even in the £39 price range.
No, so a Pocophone F1 at Laptops Direct is 289, and yeah, that's just incredible value from a UK seller with a UK plug, 64 gig storage, 6 gig of RAM, Snapdragon 845. Yeah, unbelievable, really.
Yeah, if you go on to eGlobal Central, onto AliExpress or GearBest, you can get it for as little as £220, and it's second to none in value. So if you compare, say, the Honor 8X to the Pocophone F1, at the same price, you're getting a lot.
Yeah, it's a normal size phone. It's probably the difference between it and the 8X. Normal people who don't want massive phones, will be pretty happy with a pocket phone.
Yes. Also, the notch isn't much of an issue to me personally, but I can see how it stands out as an issue for some users, because in games or apps that don't use the notch, it blacks out a vertical line across the top,
Yeah.
and then you have curved corners at the other end.
For the I think I'm quite happy with the notch on the Pocket Phone F1 because it has the face scanning tech in, and the face scanning on a Pocket Phone is the fastest face scanning that I've used on any device. Pretty much, it's as fast as the Mate 20 Pro. It's pretty amazing. So yeah, well worth.
So you've already had the update for the face scanning.
No, but I changed my region to India, and then you get face scanning, so that's quite cool. Yeah, I forgot about that. I forgot that I did that at first. Yeah, so change region to India, and you get the face scanning for some bizarre reason.
Yes. My understanding is that our friend Wilkin and the Xiaomi team are working on optimizing it because they haven't had a big enough sample of people in the UK to make it fully reliable. So it's still being worked on. There's a lot of QA work happening at the moment.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll see that come to the UK standards release devices soon.
Android Pie as well is imminent, isn't it, on the developer ROM at least? So yeah, pretty cool.
It's Android Pie, but most users will not see a difference because it will still be glazed over with MIUI 10.
Yeah, but the best thing about having Pi on it is you'll be able to install the Google Camera APK with Night Shot. So you get Night Shot for 280 quid, which is just, nuts.
Yes. What devices have you installed Night Shot on?
Just my Pixel at the moment. So I've got the Night Shot APK on the Pixel 3 XL. So yeah, it's pretty neat. Hopefully we'll get it officially soon. So
yeah, so Night Shot, for our listeners who don't know, is this amazing new software stack that Google has that does require Android 9, but does a combination of the equivalent of phase detection autofocus for long exposure. So it factors in moving of the environment, moving of the device, and does a 4-second exposure. And really, it does make the difference of night and day. Paul has some very good examples of it on Twitter, I believe. Is that where you publish them?
Yeah.
And The Verge, our friend Vlad Savov and Dieter Bohn did a very good video explaining it and how it works. And I'm looking forward to it. I have my Pixel 3 XL here with its bathtub notch, just waiting for the update to arrive.
Yeah, it's supposed to be basically today or thereabouts, isn't it? So
yes,
look forward.
I've had to reduce the number of devices I'm taking to China to 3, and the final short list or the final list that I'm taking is the Mate 20 Pro, obviously, the Pixel 3 XL, and the Pocophone F1.
Nice selection.
Yes, so I'm hoping to have some time to take some great night shots of Hong Kong and Macau with the 3 devices to do a comparison.
Nice.
Good. Right, I think we've covered most things. Do you want to give us a bit more context about Modaco, what Modaco's doing at the moment? Or actually, if you could tell us why Modaco.com is called Modaco.
So it was originally mobile data consultancy. It was, and that kind of became mobile data community, I suppose. But I'm currently in a full-time job actually, aside from Modaco. So I've kind of mothballed most of the site activity and most of the consultancy activity at the moment. So I'm kind of limiting myself to kind of the odd phone review here and there, and a bit of writing and a bit of coming on podcasts and stuff. So
very good. And what's your day job? Would you like to give a shout out to what you're doing there?
So I'm IT director for a company based in Norwich that does customer feedback surveys. So a company called ServiceTick. So servicetick.com if you need customer feedback surveys for your organization. There you go.
Very good. And can that be built into apps, or is it for the web, or both?
Yeah, it's interesting actually. So we're building out an SDK at the moment. So it'll be a kind of drop-in part to get surveys within your app that will fire on specific conditions or manually, or so. Yeah, putting a mobile slant on it, of course.
Very good. So that's really interesting in providing companies and service providers with the option to get direct feedback from their users from within the experience.
Mm.
Sounds like something that we could use, but who knows? When you see the Tech Travel Geeks app or website asking you for a survey, think of where that could have come from.
Nice.
Very good. And what else would you like to shout out about? Is there any other initiatives or projects that you think are going to change the world?
Talk about putting me on the spot, eh? No, I don't think so, really. I'm just kind of, looking at, with interest at where autonomous vehicles are kind of going to go over the coming years. One of my previous employers, I worked in telematics, so I'm interested to see, what kind of data we get coming out from autonomous vehicles and kind of how we apply that. But kind of got my hands full with everything going on at the moment. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Good. And just to finish it off, what are your favorite apps for consuming media on mobile devices whilst traveling?
Interesting one. So I'll probably go pretty simple and just load up a load of stuff in Netflix. So a bit of a classic. I've been through phases of downloading loads of stuff and transcoding, DVDs and all that sort of stuff, but I'm kind of don't have enough time to really get into that sort of stuff nowadays. So I'll just go on Netflix and download a load of stuff to watch on the flight. And my daughter, who's 14, nearly 15, she's got an iPad and does the same, gets a load of stuff down off Netflix. So that's kind of our go-to media service nowadays. Aside from obviously Pocket Casts for kind of podcasts and that sort of thing, but for video content.
Speaking of software updates, have you received the new Pocket Cast 7, which is being released as we podcast?
No, I don't think so. No. Is it big change?
Yes, massive change. My understanding is that it will be for both iOS and Android. And it's particularly on iOS, it's long overdue, which is great. I've been following one of actually their chief product officer, Rusty, on Twitter, and he's quite relieved that the release is out.
Yeah, I can imagine. Oh, cool. Yeah, I'll download that tonight and see if I can have a play.
Good. And do you listen to audiobooks?
No, not really, if I'm honest. No. So I kind of I can just about cope with podcasts and kind of keep my brain focused on them. I kind of audiobook's not for me. My mind is just going 1,000 miles an hour on something else, and it just didn't work.
Very good. How about music? What service do you use for music?
I used to play music, but like many kind of phone review people, I had to kind of give up play music because it wouldn't let me activate all my devices. So we're now on a Spotify family plan. So it works pretty well for us, and obviously that links into our Alexa and Google Assistant accounts. So that's pretty cool.
Very good. And would you be tempted if YouTube Music launched more properly to consider moving to YouTube Music, or is Spotify really the best solution for you and the family?
Yeah, Spotify works well for us. I can't really see any reason I'd want to move personally. I think my daughter would quite like it if moving to YouTube Music meant she didn't have to watch adverts on YouTube anymore. So, that would kind of be a plus for her. But for me personally, I think, Spotify works well, integrates with Waze nicely. It's got a good experience in Android Auto and all that sort of stuff, which is just, Android Auto, I think, is amazing. I wouldn't really be inclined to switch, I don't think.
Very good. And you've mentioned your laptop, your phones, your power banks. What else is in your bag when you travel?
Lots of cables. So, at least one, those charging blocks you get where it's one power in and then like 6 wires coming out like some sort of beast from the other side. There's always one of those with quick charge and USB PD. I've got an XPS 9370 as kind of my go-to device. So a charger for that. But I think that's about it, really. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so pretty much the same as me. You mentioned your camera, a Panasonic TZ100. What charger does that take?
You can charge it from micro USB,
Very good.
but I've got a spare battery for that, and then like a little plastic thing that charges 2 batteries from a micro USB. So yeah, I can kind of go hotel room, one plug, and have everything kind of coming off it, which is pretty cool.
Very good. Okay then. I think we've covered everything. Lukasz, is there anything else you'd like to speak to Paul about?
No, but it's been a pleasure. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on. It's been fun.
Yeah, so shout out to Mark Dearlove, who we had on recently, and I'm sure at some point we'll watch this episode or listen to this episode of the Tech Travel Geeks podcast. Thank you, Paul, for joining us. Where can people follow you on the internet?
Probably best place to start is at Paul O'Brien on Twitter, at Paul at Modico on Instagram. Yeah, that's where most of my stuff is nowadays. So come say hi and let me know who you are.
Very good. So, Lukasz, how about you? Where can people follow you on the internet?
I'm El Suliga on Twitter, and I'm on Instagram, Lukasz Suliga. Other than that, Tech Travel Geeks, you can find our videos on YouTube and on techtravelgeeks.com. There are some articles and links to the videos. What about you, Matteo?
So I'm on Twitter and Instagram as at Todoleo, Tango Oscar Delta Oscar Lima Echo Oscar. And you can read my ramblings and edited podcasts on techtravelgeeks.com.
So what does Toddleo mean?
Todoleo's the outcome of an oral examination I had at high school in Italy, ironically doing French medieval literature, and we were covering La Chanson de Roland. So when asked about the source, about who the author was, I was supposed to say that there was no real known author. The oldest manuscript we have found was penned by someone called Turaldo. I got Turaldo wrong, called it Todoleo. My friends started laughing at me. I embraced it, and it became my personal brand.
Oh, nice. Nice story. Nice story.
Yes, not very straightforward, but I've made it my own thing. I believe I recently let the domain expire, so if anyone wants Todoleo.com, they can have it. But yes, it's still my handle on the interwebs. And so yeah, people can follow me there on most social media platforms. And if you follow us on Twitter at Tech Travel Geeks, we tend to tweet about current tech and travel related content. We tweet out our new episodes of the podcast and new articles that are on our site. You can also subscribe to Tech Travel Geeks on YouTube, where Lukasz's excellently edited video with shoehorned drone footage tend to be posted. And you can also subscribe to our podcasts on Pocket Casts, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and invoke the Tech Travel Geeks podcast from your voice assistants of choice. So thank you very much for listening, everyone, and good night from us.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks very much.